Hi everybody, Randy Wakeman here. It's an extremely windy day. It's also pretty warm in the 60s, which is unbelievable for mid-November in northern Illinois. Anyway, this is a review of the reintroduced Fabarm XLR5 flat rib. Currently comes in a blue hard case. It comes with one barrel length, 30-inch. Like essentially all Fabarm semi-autos and over and unders, it comes with a tri-bore barrel. The piston array is pretty simple. It's nicely coated. This is a target gun. Very, very simple piston. This gas cylinder is not pressed in, it's actually threaded. So it's not something you want to yank off because it is precision threaded, which normally there would be no reason for it to be removed. So it comes with a 30-inch barrel. The XLR5 itself, similar design to what Fabarm has been perfecting for years. The mainspring is not in the buttstock. It's right here along with two generously chrome-plated action bars. So it's a tough action. You can shoot any 2 3/4-inch shell you want through it. You're not going to hurt it, at least according to Fabarm USA. So let me continue on. Matter of fact, I want to show you the inside of the forearm. This is Fabarm's tri-wood. Now there are a lot of enhanced finishes, and if I had my druthers, I personally prefer oil finished walnut. But of the enhanced finishes, the Fabarm is probably the best because it's not a decal, it's ink applied along with the clear coat. So you can see, hopefully you can see the inside of the forearm. It's good quality walnut, but not well figured. And the outside, it's nice and dark. And plenty of simulated figure. I call it simulated figure because that's what it is. They're not all alike because when they apply the clear coat along with the ink, it takes on some of the character of the individual stick of walnut. What's good about it is that it's essentially weatherproof. So if it's rained on lightly, you don't have to do anything. It's not going to soak up moisture. Same way for the L4S sporting the basic model, although other trim levels are available. As far as assembly, there's not much to it. Those familiar with Fabarm autos know that you don't get a lot of barrel wiggle or wobble because it's extremely close tolerances with the barrel extension. So for ease of disassembly, you're better off taking some clear grease and put a little dab of grease on that barrel extension. So you can see it's right now it's clean, it slides right in. Kind of juggling things out here in the field, but the forearm assembly is pretty easy. You want to check, not so much with their target models, but if you're using a Fabarm waterfowler, you want to make sure that the forearm mates with the receiver properly. You can see it's scalloped here. And the way you know that your forearm is properly attached is that you've got a perfect flush fit all the way around. Very easy to see with a walnut model, with the Waterfowler Pro or any synthetic model. If you're not looking, you can miss it. I guess that's the idea of camo, is that you can miss it. So a little history of Fabarm semi-autos. Fabarm was originally founded over 100 years ago by the Galizzi family in Italy. I think their first foray into semi-autos was a John Browning Automatic 5 variation that they called the Golden Matic. So the Golden Matic, as far as I know, was the first commercially successful semi-auto from Fabarm, and that goes back many, many years. The history of Fabarm in the United States is Wes Lang, who is really in tune with clay target sports, wanted to offer his customers a no-compromise target semi-auto. That means soft shooting, and it also meant the first Fabarm USA imported product was the XLR5 Velocity. Velocity is a big, heavy gun, the beast, and it had adjustable everything. It's still available. It's called the AR, adjustable rib. So the Velocity has an adjustable rib, adjustable comb, and there's a fairly elaborate weight system, kinetic balancer, so you can set it up pretty much any way you want. And the adjustable rib really, really works. When Fabarm can improve something, they do right away. And the first few guns that were imported had extremely large pistol grips. It's just a big gun. So if you're a big guy, you liked it, average sized guy, I guess like me, it just felt big. So they redesigned the pistol grip, the buttstock to a certain extent, and then that was it, the XLR5 Velocity, their first entry. After that was the XLR5 Long Rib. The Velocity was oil finished walnut, so was the Long Rib, which gave you a nice heads up shooting position. And as time goes on, they introduced a new model, the L4S, with the same basic gas system, but a significantly redesigned forearm array that takes all stress away from the forearm. So, one of Wes Lang and Company's criteria was to have a good trigger, because it is a competition target gun. So let me test this flat rib. And it's about 5 pounds. Let's try that again. Try to have the exact pull that you would get if your hand was on the pistol grip. I'll try the same angle. Or there you go. 4 pounds, 9 ounces. So there's a lot of shotguns out there, semi-autos, 6-7 pound triggers that are mushy, and this is very crisp. I'm not going to call it glass rod break, but there's almost no take up. So you pull on it and it just clicks. Very, very crisp. So they did a nice job with the trigger. So after the long rib, they introduced this model, the flat rib. And the flat rib proved to be the most affordable and one of the most popular models of the XLR5 series. The 5 indicates a 5-round capacity, 4 in the tube, 1 in the chamber, actually 4 plus 1. Some of the thunder of the flat rib was stolen by the L4S, the new model, and its various enhancements and improvements that you may think are enhancements. Some people prefer this model, and that's why Fabarm USA announced in January that they were bringing it back, because historically it's been a popular gun. There are a lot of guns sold worldwide, and sold in Italy that are just not available in the United States. So the American consumer gets to decide what the new models are, which models stay, and which models don't, because it's all about satisfying the consumer. So as long as we're weighing things, let me weigh the gun. It's got a improved cylinder, excess choke. So my crude method, fairly crude, of weighing an unloaded gun is with my trigger gauge. And this is 7 pounds 15 ounces, almost 8 pounds. So it's a fairly substantial gun, a little bit heavier than the L4S. Yeah, I'm getting 7 pounds 13.7 ounces. So you're an ounce or two away from being an 8-pound gun. These are Fiocchi 1250 feet per second, 1 ounce loads with a 2 3/4 inch chamber and the target gas piston. The way this gun is designed, target loads, it has no problem with very, very slow 1 ounce loads. Some people are using 7/8 ounce reloads. Not me, because there's just no recoil. No reason to use a lighter payload with a gun like this. Anyway, let's see if it ejects. Ejection is extremely positive. It's about 5-foot ejection. And it is soft shooting. Fabarm's standard recoil pad is very good, and they offer pads of different thicknesses. In the box you get an array of choke tubes and shims. It's also shim adjustable. There's also a weight system. If you want more weight in front, you can easily do it. And there's a kinetic balancer. I don't know if it's in here or not, that adds 4 or 5 ounces to the butt. So you can get the balance that you want. Right now, I would say there is no kinetic balancer in it, because if anything, it's very slightly weight forward. As a target gun, you also have a nice big fat target rib. Not the little skinny 6x6 rib that you see in most hunting guns. So it's a target rib, target trigger, really good trigger. And of course the next question is, why would you want this XLR5 as opposed to an L4S? It's a question I get a lot. It's almost completely personal preference. But let me go grab an L4S Sporting and try to run through the differences. This is the L4S Gray Sporting. The Gray Sporting and the Deluxe both have oil finished walnut and a little more engraving. Good looking gun. Let me test the trigger. Both of these triggers are just as supplied. You just don't need aftermarket trigger work with a Fabarm. 4 pounds 2 ounces. Is there a difference you can feel? Not really. They're both excellent triggers. As far as the gas system, the L4S, the 4 means it's actually a 3.1. There's a limiter plug in there for this and the Hunter models. But you can see the forearm nut is integral with the forearm. You'll never lose it. Even if you try to over tighten it, you'll see the holes there. You can grab an Allen wrench and loosen it, even if you think it's stuck. So that means there's no stress whatsoever on the forearm, which is a good idea, which I like. So this has been shot, about ready for cleaning. You can give it roughly 85–90% clean without any further disassembly. To completely disassemble it, this red cap, of course, comes off, and that's what you need to do to remove the barrel. The L4S Sporting is a lighter gun. There's no question about that. If you wish, you can add weights. Fabarm has a very clever weight system that you can add to the front and the back, but that's all personal preference. And this is the factory pad as well. So let me weigh it as long as we're out here. Fairly crude example. Here's 7 pounds, 5 ounces. £7 pounds, 7 ounces. So this is roughly a 7.5 pound gun. 7 pounds, 7 ounces. Whereas the XLR5, even though it has a 2-inch longer barrel, this is a 28-inch barrel, it's about a ½ pound heavier. So again, that's personal preference. Recoil with either model is negligible. Same Yoki 1 ounce, 1250 foot-per-second loads. And even though I'm shooting at nothing except the ground, there's just not much recoil here. Say ejection is probably a little more sprightly with the L4S. If you want a bigger safety, rather than the smallish button type safety, the larger safety used on the waterfowler is something you can swap right in, either to the L4S or the XLR5, your choice. So there's a lot of room for customization. So the difference, this is a faster gun, no question about it, and it's a ½ pound lighter. With the gas operation, you don't need a heavy gun unless you prefer. So even though it's windy, let me throw up a few clay pigeons and see if these guns break clay pigeons, which is what they're supposed to do. For an 8-pound gun, it moves extremely well. Now here's something, when the action's open, people ask about, can you hear the piston? You sure can. Now of course, if there was no clearance for the piston to move, you'd have a single shot. So obviously the piston can move, because that's what cycles the action. That's what knocks the breech bolt back. Close the gun. Very, very little noise. Little slight tap. But you have to have some clearance between the gas piston and the gas piston housing, otherwise you've got binding. And of course, as you shoot, everything heats up, your tolerances tighten up, and you don't want binding. So this comes up every once in a while. So almost no noise, not that you would intentionally shake your gun back and forth, but there's a very light tap. But if you open it, absolutely, you can hear that piston moving back and forth, and that's a good thing. You want your gas piston to move. So people wonder about that. Is it normal? It's like, you bet it's normal. If your piston doesn't move with the gas operated semi-auto, you might have a problem. You might see stronger brakes with the L4S, but I have an improved modified tube in here. The XLR5 was just an improved cylinder. That was pretty much smoke. So, this is a 28-inch barreled gun, so it's pretty much neutrally balanced. You can customize that any way you want. It's definitely a lighter, faster handling gun. Recoil isn't a problem with either one, but if you want a little lighter gun, like I do, and a little faster gun, 28-inch barrel, like I do, this may be your choice. But it's going to come down to personal preference as far as quality, reliability, the excellence of the tolerances and machining, and Fabarm customer service. It's identical. It's just a choice. When you shoulder the XLR5, it feels like a bigger gun. The forearm is slightly bigger, at least it feels that way. You've got a different checkering pattern, so you've got checkering all the way up and down the side. It feels a little bit bigger. This gun is a little bit bigger. It's a 30-inch barrel. Gets you 2 inches closer to the target. And that's the trend, I would say. It goes in spurts, but people seem to like longer barrels on target guns. 32 or even 34 for over and unders, and 30-inch is the most popular, probably, for semi-autos. Bigger trigger guard, and the trigger is adjustable. You have an adjustable position, so you can slide that trigger up and down, so the placement is exactly what you prefer. Adjustable trigger, bigger trigger guard, little bigger receiver, and about a ½ pound of weight. So it's going to come right down to what you prefer. Now Fabarm, they're at all the major shoots, so and some of the Fabarm dealers have demo days. So there are a lot of these guns around, and of course the best thing is break a few clays, take a few shots, and decide what's best for you. And so the flat rib was discontinued because of the several L4S models, but it was a strong enough model where it's backed by popular demand. So that's about all I can say. The rest is up to you. You want an extra ½ pound of weight? You want a little slower, smoother moving gun? This would be the direction I would lean towards. The L4S, a little more sophisticated forearm array, which I like. It's a single position trigger, which most are, but you cannot move the trigger fore and aft like you can in the XLR5. But both are extremely customizable with recoil pads, with shims, and with different weight systems that are all described at Fabarm USA. So I hope that helps. There's really no wrong answer. It's just a gun that speaks to you, like anything else. Whether it's a jacket, a pair of boots, gun fit and gun feel, that's everything, but it's also a personal decision. So I do personally, I like oil finished walnut and I like a lighter gun with a 28-inch barrel for clays, for skeet and sporting clays, but that's not necessarily how everybody looks at it. Either way you go, recoil is just no issue. They are extremely soft shooting guns. So there you have it. I hope that separates the two guns a little bit more than based on just catalog descriptions. At least that's my hope. So, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.